Well, that's pretty much the heart of this book.
Right.
And what you do first, of course, is to evaluate or observe your behavior as if it were through an objective lens of a camera with no judgment.
Okay.
The minute you start to judge yourself in any kind of
that's bad. That's
behavior,
good.
you're not going to learn anything. Learning shuts down. Even at 3 years old, at 80 years old, people don't learn in the process of being judged. And then from that place of sort of self-love, you go back into the taproots, into early childhood. When was the first time I observed this? The first time I experienced it? The first time I was told not to notice it? You go back because you can recreate those early dialogues, and you can change the way they implement in your later life. The book shows how to do that. And then you want to look at your triggers, because in the present, certain phrases or things people say are going to activate those early childhood memories, whether you're aware of them or not. So then you want to know when you're most susceptible to those triggers, because sometimes when you're tired or sad, or you've been rejected by 3 people in a row, you're going to be much more likely to be triggered the next time around. Once that's understandable, then you put in place how you would rather be than the way you were, and the book talks about how to do that, what to replace it with. And then, most important of all, who are you going to hang around with that are going to reinforce your new behaviors rather than reinforce your old behaviors, because they're getting something out of them.
Right.
It may be supporting their relationship saboteuring behavior. So you have to hang out with people who are going to very much reinforce and support you in your new behaviors. And then the last is, how do you hold those in place? How do you look for it in the future? How do you make sure you don't get off track? So the book talks very clearly with some wonderful exercises that are interesting to do to help you, in fact, reinforce those new learnings. And they do work. I've done this with hundreds of people who are so excited about the ability to change their lives in ways they couldn't even see before what was wrong.
Okay, so going back to these different steps you have in your book, a lot of it asks you to go back into your past, you know, relive certain conversations or situations, episodes that you experienced with, you know, different people who were important in your life, and triggers you have in the present and when you're being susceptible to them. So how can you tell when you are being triggered by something that happened in your past that's affecting you now?
First of all, this is a beautiful question. It's not true for everybody in the same way,
Right.
but mostly we rely on the body. Our body and the way it speaks to us is the closest thing we have to the child that never leaves us. So you look for your bodily sensations, and usually you can't stop a cascade once it starts happening, so you have to actually pick up the triggers before it happens, when you can actually make a decision to change things.
Before it goes downhill.
And it might, you know, and when you're tired, of course, you're going to be more likely. When you, as I said before, if you've been hurt or wounded recently, you're going to be more likely. But if you listen to your body, and the book talks about this, your breathing changes, your sense of being able to see changes. Like when people are emotionally upset, their vision narrows. They can't see options spiritually. They can't see what's going on that's wrong for them. So being able to be centered and still and aware and not judgmental helps you to feel those triggers before they happen or as they're happening. And the book tells you what to do instead in order to put your new behavior into place. And over time, you can actually feel those triggers as they're building and do something that alternates so that you don't face that situation again.
That's funny. I've started to notice that in my own practicing
Have you?
of the steps in your book, is realizing my body is changing, and right now I can feel a trigger coming on.
Absolutely.
And it's marvelous to recognize it in yourself before it happens. So you feel like you have some semblance of control over your own behaviors.
Well, it gives you options
Right.
that you wouldn't have had if you were acting unconsciously and automatically. And then you feel heartsick afterwards because you're aware. Now remember, with any change, catching it ahead of time, of course, is our goal in changing it. But it's really okay if you slip up and catch it right afterwards. Don't sit there and judge yourself, and you say to yourself, whoa, what could I have done differently? And you go back and you retrace your steps in the present, identically to the way you retraced them as a child, except now you have more control.
It's about practicing.
Yeah.
So, we go back into our past, we figure out triggers in the present when we're most susceptible to them. And then the next step is creating, right, a community, a network of people who will help encourage your new behaviors.
Yes.
Some of us are single, some of us are in relationships already. If you're in a relationship, is your current partner somebody, is that person okay to depend upon, to trust, to encourage your new behaviors?
I think that's probably one of the most often asked questions, because people, if they're in a relationship, obviously don't want it to be over.
Right.
They're okay. It has a lot to do with whether your partner is on board or not. If your partner has an investment in your being difficult so they can blame the relationship on you, you know, very often people will laugh and say somebody goes on a diet and their partner buys them chocolates. That happens also emotionally, spiritually, sexually, and intellectually. You'll start to do something and the partner will unconsciously or consciously seduce you back into old behavior, to hold on to his or her own behavior
that they don't want to change.
They don't want to change it yet. So if that happens, you can tell, and people around you, other people around you, can also reflect that same awareness. So, you know, people say, well, does that mean my relationship will end? Unfortunately, that's a possibility, because when anyone makes any kind of major change, it's going to ripple out. Other people have to respond to that. And if a person holds rigidly to it and you all of a sudden feel locked in to behavior that's harmful to you, unless you can get professional help or unless that person is willing to go with you, sometimes that relationship ends. But, because you know, maybe it's supposed to.
Right, because it can't grow with you as you are growing.
Exactly.
This is kind of a general question, but I'm sure it's been popping up in the heads of people who are going to be listening to this. Can people actually change their behavior, or are they just kind of pretending as they go along? Can they truly make a change that lasts for the rest of their lives?
Well, let me start with the answer before I give the explanation. Okay. I couldn't do what I do and love it as much as I do after 90,000 hours of facing people if I didn't believe change were possible.
Right.
I think people have certain personality characteristics. They have certain proclivities. They have deep, deep, deep painful trauma that sometimes you have to just cordon off and say, I'll carry that with me because I don't have a lifetime to change that. So there are many factors that affect the capacity to change, and some people laugh by saying change is like falling up. It does take practice, but I believe that anyone at any age with the right commitment, with their heart in it, can certainly make monumental changes in their lives. I couldn't do this.
Once you've started making these changes and you've gone forward in your life and you're really seeing positive results, how can you make sure you don't slip back into your old sabotaging behaviors?
It's a wonderful question, and it's so general because, like I said before, if people have started working out, if people have begun to save money, if people want to lose weight, you know, it has to have a passion to it. It has to be something that is mutually exclusive with other choices, and that takes practice, and it takes hope. So when people begin making changes, you know, they want to be encouraged, and when their life starts to work better, it's easier to let go of the past when you have something to look forward to. It's hard. Habits are hard to change. They're automatic, they're easy. But when they're hurting you over and over and over again, the hope through this book is that you'll be motivated and will have hope that things can be different if you just keep working at it.
And that's important, the struggle.
You
to
bet.
Keep moving forward.
To be in transition.
Right.
You know, I'm a work in progress.
Thank you very much for talking about Relationship Saboteurs. This has been wonderful to listen to you. I know you have a new book coming out, actually, in the spring. Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yes. In fact, I'm very, very excited about it. It's called When Love Stumbles.
Okay.
It's about when people have been in a relationship for a while. It's for couples.
Okay.
That they start to lose each other on certain continuums. They go from like excitement to boredom, or from being a safe haven to each other, from being on trial all the time. And these slippings along these little stumbles happen very slowly over time, often unnoticeably. And then people find themselves still in love but not connected, and they're scared. This book shows people how to come back, how to fall in love again. And it does it in a series of very sweet steps with lots and lots and lots of help. So it'll be out probably in the spring of next year. Really, really excited about it.
Oh, great. I'm excited too. I can't wait to read it after reading Relationship Saboteurs. That's wonderful. Relationship Saboteurs in the next spring, When Love Stumbles.
Yes, and the next one will be a surprise.
A surprise.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
It's been my pleasure. You're a delightful interviewer.
Thank you.